Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here. And we have some incredible ladies here who will share their experiences and insights of working in crypto and blockchain industry. Uh, Before we dive into this, I would like to thank Genesis Blockchain Conference for having us today. And I would like to request our panelists to introduce yourself in briefly, your name, your profession, and when did you enter this space? We'll start with Preethi.
Preethi Kasireddy. I got into crypto, I think, in 2014-ish. And I introduced myself at the first talk, but I worked at Goldman, I worked at A16Z, and then I taught myself how to code and then ended up joining Coinbase, which is how I got into crypto. And then I started my own crypto company.
I'm Priyanka Sharma, and I handle marketing and communications at Wazirex. The first time I bought Bitcoin was when a colleague transferred it to me in 2014 or early 2015. And I'm a marketing and marketing advertising person, so I'm not too familiar with the tech aspect of it, but yeah.
Tanvi?
Hi, sorry I'm late. So how I got into crypto?
You have to introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. And when did you enter this space?
So I'm Tanvi Ratna. I run a regulatory and policy advisory firm in, not in emerging technologies generally. And I've been pretty active in crypto regulation globally. So I worked across 9 countries now on crypto regulations. So I got into the space because I come from the policy-making side. I used to work within government, so I used to work on Capitol Hill when Secretary Clinton was there, Hillary Clinton. I worked in India with PM Modi. That's when I moved here. And I got into blockchain in 2017, so I was helping the Karnataka government with their blockchain framework and their engagement with the community.
Great. So we have got Priyanka from marketing background, Preethi from VC and entrepreneurship background, and we have got Tanvi from regulatory aspects. So the first question, when we hear women in blockchain, the question we have is gender inequality. So various industries experience gender inequality. How relevant is it in the digital asset space? We'll start with Preethi.
Sure. My perspective, again, everyone's perspective is different. My perspective on this is, I don't think it's any different from other industries. Like, crypto is not like, we're not like, oh, women are not allowed. Like, it's just a matter of the fact that, there are less women in tech in general. And as a result, and crypto is kind of the bleeding edge of tech, so you're going to see even fewer women in crypto, and that's to be expected. So I think to ever expect any workforce or any industry to have equal men and women, I think that's a false hope. I think instead what we need to do is give women the option to enter crypto, or the awareness and the education to enter crypto. So it's not about getting all women into crypto, but it's about giving them the option and seeing if they're interested. Because some women might not be interested, right? We don't want to pull women into crypto who are not interested. So where does that happen? In my opinion, that happens in colleges and places like that. But to answer your question, I don't think it's any different than any other industry.
Priyanka?
I would just add on to what Preethi said. And the thing with blockchain is because it's very nascent technology, so it sounds very complicated. So I know for me, when Nishal looped me into working with Wazirex, and I was very intimidated. I was terrified because I thought it's a very tech-dominated sector, and there is no role for a non-techie there. But actually, Preethi, that's where your articles helped me a lot. In fact, it was after reading your Medium posts, the 3-part posts, that I got familiar with the aspects of crypto, and then I think that's when I felt that, okay, this is something I can understand enough to promote and market. So, yeah, so I think because of the whole, it sounds very complicated, so it might intimidate women, and there are already very few women in tech. So, raising an awareness is a very important thing, and there are various ways you can be a part of this: finance, marketing, law, policies, anything.
Tanvi, would you like to add?
Yeah, so I fully agree with Preethi. I think women in tech is generally a problem. Also, in my industry of policy making, politics, women are far lesser, I think, than in tech. And that too in India, I find like it's quite less. And I had the same experience as you, Priyanka. Like when I first got into blockchain, there's so many times when I've been the only woman in the room, like so many meetings, like most of the meetings are like that. And I think there is definitely a need for, I think, these other skills in blockchain now, because I think blockchain overall has a PR problem. Like it has a very big PR problem with everybody, like with citizens, with governments. And that whole messaging around that, I think definitely there's a lot of need for good professionals from there. But I think also just core women in tech, like getting them interested in crypto. There's a lot of women in tech in Bangalore, but I don't see as many of them at events, right?
Exactly. So I think the blockchain technology is a kind of manipulating concept when it comes to technology, because we tend to think it's a kind of tech-oriented concept, right? So I'd like to ask you all, what's it going to take, to drive female leadership in this space? What can we do to bring more women in this space? What are the aspects?
I always go back to education and awareness. Like, I know it sounds simple and cliche, but how are women gonna come into the space if they don't even know about it? And I think, like, when you go to colleges or whatever, right now, taking cryptocurrency classes is probably not an option. So perhaps allowing people to take these kinds of courses and having these kinds of courses in colleges could help bring awareness. And if that's not possible because colleges are too bureaucratic, then the other option is to have off-campus like meetups and stuff, or on-campus organizations that are crypto-related. So for example, in American colleges, I think basically every college in America now has multiple or at least one or more crypto clubs. So same thing should happen in India. Like every college should have these crypto clubs that are self-organized, so that more women find out about it through these organizations.
Again, I completely agree with what Preethi has said. Uh, we need more awareness and education around it. And there are women who are doing a fabulous job in cryptocurrency and blockchain field. You look at Lightning Labs and everything, Tezos. So there are women doing a solid job. So more of this needs to be highlighted to encourage women. I know a few women who are doing an exceptional job with market research and everything. They're like basically they're leading a team. I mean, they have their own company which helps crypto projects take care of marketing and everything. So that should be highlighted. So again, just to say that yeah, there is room for everyone to like build things.
So basically workshops and the classes could help them.
Yeah,
Would you like to
absolutely.
add anything, Tanvi?
Yeah, I think some messaging around blockchain and women, like even this panel, I've never seen it happen in like 3 years in Bangalore. And some messaging, like even on social media, because blockchain is like disrupting the social order as well. It's a social movement as much as it's a tech movement, right? And so what can blockchain mean for women? Like even if, Preethi had a blog about it, or like if people write about that or start some hashtag women in blockchain or something, like it can really help.
Yeah.
One more thing, which is, oh man, I lost. I lost.
Oh, you can continue. That's okay. So we have many people here from different aspects. One is marketing, VC, and regulatory aspect. So, coming back to your own career, how did you start researching about Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency? Because whenever somebody, especially a woman, wants to enter into this space, she might not have that, a to-do list, what to do exactly. So how did you start researching about these aspects? Would you like to share? Yeah, we'll start with.
Yeah, and this is where it gets a little bit tough because crypto is not mainstream, and so there's no like Bible of here's exactly what you need to learn in crypto, and you know everything. Like that doesn't exist because there's not everyone knows everything, and it's chaos. You can't put order to chaos yet, and this is why to get into crypto you have to be very self-driven, and you have to be willing to go on the internet and read and learn yourself. So when I got into Bitcoin, it was like, how did I figure it out? I just Googled stuff, and then when I didn't understand something, I Googled more, and then I Googled more, and then I basically went on infinite rabbit holes on the internet until I understood stuff. And then, you meet people, you talk to people, and then you start to form your understanding of this thing. It's not you just like take a course and you understand all of crypto. Like, it doesn't work that way. It has to be self-exploratory. And to really understand crypto, you have to do this deep exploration and believe in it yourself. Like, because if you just read what other people say, then you're just doing crypto because you think other people think it's cool. But for you to truly believe and understand crypto, like, you have to understand it from first principles yourself, and then be able to answer the doubts that come up yourself, and that takes time. That takes months, and for me, it took years. Balaji told me about Bitcoin in, 2014, and at the time, I kind of read the Bitcoin white paper, and I didn't really get it, and I just put it aside, and I got obsessed with machine learning for a bit, and I was doing other stuff, even though I knew about crypto. I didn't fall heads down into it the moment I heard it. And then, I got into Coinbase, and even when I was at Coinbase, I wasn't fully convinced and bought into crypto. I was still I had a lot of doubts. I'm trying to figure this out. So it took me probably 2 to 3 years to really fully understand, okay, what is crypto, and why does it make sense? And the one thing about crypto is everyone has their own philosophy around it sometimes. It means something different to each person. So this is what I mean. You have to be willing to self-explore and learn it. So I think maybe there's people in the industry who are putting together little here's how you can get an intro to crypto. So I don't know if any of you follow Hasib Qureshi, but he put together a intro to cryptocurrencies course, and I think he's going to open source it. Actually, he did open source it. I can send you the link, and he basically put together a curriculum where if you don't know anything about crypto, you can follow this guide and you start to get a basic understanding. So we probably need a few of those to at least give you an intro, and then after you have that intro, you go and explore on your own.
Priyanka?
For me, so my first intro to the blockchain was after reading Preethi's blog. And so here, at least what I did was I understood some key terms, what is protocol, what is consensus, etc. But then that's not enough, right? So I remember subscribing to this newsletter called 10 Days of Bitcoin. So it helped me understand the basics of it. So yeah, that was very insightful, those 10 newsletters. So the person would send a newsletter every day. That was very good. And another thing what I did was, for you to understand something, you have to be invested in it. So I bought some Ether and I bought Bitcoin, with my own money, because for me to be into it, I need to have some skin, right? Skin in the game.
What was the price of Bitcoin at that time?
It was, I think it was $9,000. It was 2017, I guess.
You made a good chunk then.
Arey, no, please, let's not go there. So, yes, and so initially then I got understood quite a bit about it, and I'm still learning. So I think it was a few months ago I understood how candlesticks work. And yeah, my colleague taught me that. And so yeah, of course, then again with Google, you have every information at your disposal. So you keep learning, keep reading. Medium is great. So yes.
So I came from the consulting space. So I was at Ernst and Young. I was handling. So we have this principle of baptism by fire in consulting, which is basically you get thrown into a project, and even if it's a new industry, you have to pick it up running, right? And so you're trained that way, like all the time. So my first exposure on blockchain was a crisis project where a client is telling me we have to build a framework around this thing called blockchain in like 2 months. And you're it, like, you have to help us do it, because I was managing that here. And it was like just like falling down the rabbit hole is like, that's always been the way, right? And for me, like, I believe a lot in learning by doing. So I started immediately applying like a lot of my policy, regulatory lens into this, right? And then worked with the ecosystem a lot here, came out with a couple of white papers around crypto and Indian policy, So I think just that we all have skills, right? Like layering those skills with whatever new subject you're doing, like I think that helps you learn very fast.
Yeah, and one last thing is crypto requires you to, okay, if you're one of the early people, all of us, interested in crypto, I think you naturally are more on the entrepreneurial side. You're more risk taking, I guess. So to attract more women and just people in general, I think we have to reduce the risk it requires for someone to enter the space, and that means we have to have. How do we do that? Like that's a good question to think about, right? How do we make crypto not so risky to come into and make it? Because like, why do people not come in and stay at their current location? Is because they have safety in that job or that other place. So it's about how do we give them more safety if they come to crypto. And right now, crypto is a wild, wild west. So I don't know if we can offer them that, but something to think about.
So Preethi, do you think women are deliberately kept away from the crypto investment, entrepreneurship, and other highest post from this industry because of this stress or whatever you're saying?
I don't think it's deliberate. Again, I think it just comes down to the fact that crypto has more risk. It requires you to be a lot more entrepreneurial, and you have to be very self-motivated to learn about it. And so a lot of women, like maybe they have the time and the energy to do that for a few years, but at some point they might have children or they might have families. They don't maybe not even have the time to make that investment. So I don't think it's deliberate. I just think it's just what it is. And again, we have to give women the opportunity to know about it in their youth. Because if they know about it when they're young, then they have more risk tolerance when they're young to come into something like this. Whereas if you're much, much older, your risk tolerance is much lower.
Yeah. Adding to that, right from the education to the professional arena, women require a kind of recognition and the motivation to move forward. Yeah, I agree to that. And coming back to Tanvi, you have spoken to so many regulators across the world. Have you seen any regulators coming forward to help the woman or the female who wants to take up the lead? Do you think?
I mean, in general, I think governments everywhere are doing a lot for women entrepreneurs. Like there is definitely a targeted focus on it. In crypto, I wouldn't say like that's different. It's not like they're especially targeting women crypto entrepreneurs. But in the policy-making space, also quite a few leading voices are women also. Like if you see in the US, like the SEC FinHub, which is like the nodal point for crypto regulation, the head of that is a woman. Now the chair of the European Central Bank is a woman. It's Christine Lagarde. At the EU level, like all the regulatory bodies, the ESMA, the EBA, all of these, the studies, it's all chaired by women. So I do see a lot of women very active in the thought, thinking, and research and advocacy on this topic. And yeah, I don't say that it's any different from other industry.
Which country have you seen the more women in policy and government sector when it comes to blockchain and crypto?
I think in the EU region, it's definitely very high. Yeah.
Is it? The next question goes to Priyanka. You have been with WazirX since, I guess, the first day of WazirX, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you have any analytics pertaining to crypto trading for male versus female? Do you have any analytics?
So I was going through our social media stats. I cannot talk much about the trading, but I think 92% of our followers are men. WazirX followers are men. And even on our community channels and all, we see a majority of chunk, like it of course constitutes of men. And so I've spoken to a few female traders from our group, asked them what they think. Do they know other traders, like female traders? So yeah, so their response was the same, that they know very few female traders, like maybe a couple of traders. In fact, this lady I spoke to, she's the only female trader I'm aware of, I know. And the answer was the same. The reason was the same, that there is very little exposure, and trading, due to the whole nature of like finance and tech part of it. So women, they aren't the target demographic for this domain. Yeah. So, but again, it's a male-dominated
Okay.
segment.
Achha. When I got to know that I'll be moderating the panel, I opened up this session to community on Twitter and Telegram and got some questions. And one such question was, they asked me to ask you, do you think individuals connect women because they are women or good looking than just looking at their talents? Have you come across with such incidents ever?
Yeah, this is where I think it's a slippery slope. It's like, I definitely think giving women the opportunity is important, but hiring women because they're women, like I think that's where you start to get into not the best territory, because then it's a slippery slope. You have to do that for every possible minority group, and that just gets chaotic. So I've noticed this happen in the tech world, and I think I don't think the result of that is going to be good, but it is what it is. I think people are almost trying to solve the problem at a shallow level. Like, if you're hiring a woman just to fill your quotas, like that's not solving the problem. That's just putting a Band-Aid on it and saying, hey, look, like we have more women. But the real, again, problem comes back to like way younger, like in school, in colleges. Like that's where the solutions are, where you educate them and make them aware so that they naturally enter the workforce with this knowledge. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I would add to that something that Preethi and me were talking about earlier. I think it starts at parenting, I mean, it really starts with what attitude you see towards your mothers, to your sisters, I think that's a much larger debate than crypto.
Yeah, when woman is there, when a girl is there on Twitter, nobody would ask, oh, she is there. And then when she is there in a woman in blockchain, they'll be surprised, isn't it? So let's hear it from Priyanka.
Yeah, a few people, quite often, some men reach out saying that, oh, you're a woman in blockchain. That's a pretty good thing, like so cool to see a woman there. So I feel that's a bit of patronizing there, okay, it's not a big deal. It could be, like, first of all, being in blockchain isn't cool, okay? Like, it's just another industry. Some people may not find it cool. That's absolutely normal. So, and yeah, saying that, I also feel I get a little offended, because you wouldn't say that to a man, that, oh, you're a, like, you're a man in blockchain. Like, okay, it's as good as any tech industry. And I think if some people are incredulous when they see a woman, they also sometimes wonder whether it's a fake profile or it's real. Are you just, a man under the guise of a woman? And so because they see very few women in the space that's there, I would also add one more point here, that you see very few women participating in online forums because they don't want to get harassed, and which I don't know, but I know a lot of women who face this issue. What about you guys?
No, it's absolutely true. I think women and men use social networks very differently, because my boyfriend also has a lot of followers, and I can see how he reacts to negative feedback compared to how I used to react to negative feedback. And he's had to train me to basically not react and like think in a different way. But men and women react to criticisms differently. Women take criticisms on social networks almost personally, where we think it's like something's wrong with us, and that's just, I don't know why we do that, but we do. And I've noticed that a lot of my guy friends don't do that. They're like, oh, this is just a random person on the internet. Who cares, right? Like, they just shrug it off. And so naturally, how many women on Twitter have large followings? Not that many, because as soon as you hit like the 20, 30K mark, like people are really mean on the internet. So yeah, of course that prevents women from coming into the space, because women don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with a bunch of dudes calling a woman wrong. Like, that's just stupid. So yeah.
Tanvi?
And one last thing, the other thing I wanted to mention was another way to think about potentially bringing more women is looking at what fields in tech naturally have more women. So I think marketing, for example, is a department that usually has more women. At least that's what I've noticed. Maybe I'm wrong. So maybe having more job openings for marketing fields that target and basically take women from tech marketing and bring them into crypto, kind of transferring them over from the tech world to crypto world. That could be another solution, in my opinion.
Exactly. Just like any other sector, blockchain is no different, undoubtedly. And yes, we need transformation as soon as possible. So guys, do you know any women-led project that is poised to make a quick impact in this industry? Have you come across any project as such, which is leading by a woman?
I don't have one particular example, but there's a few women in this space that are definitely entrepreneurial. Tezos is one, for example. Catherine Brightman, right? So she's definitely a force of nature. Elizabeth Stark from Lightning. There's probably a few examples, but there's definitely some.
Yeah, I think there are a couple. Like, I think also Amber Balde at Clover. She's pretty good. And in the EU area, like, I don't know if you've heard of Smart Valor. It's one of the leaders in like this STOs for SMEs kind of model. And their leader is very charismatic woman. She's also the reason why Switzerland is so pro crypto. Like, she's been a real force there. In Germany, like Gnosis, their COO is a woman, and she's been a big force in the Berlin ecosystem. So yeah, I think there's a lot of like anchors of ecosystems who are like women, but they're not as big in celebrity status, I guess.
Priyanka?
I can think of Lightning Labs and Tezos for now. I think there's Banker also that's led by a lady. I don't remember her name. So yeah, but I would love to see more come out from India at least. Yeah. Of course, Tabassum, you are the next person we'll be talking about.
So would you like to give any message to all the women out there? I see only 2 or 3 here. But yeah, whoever are not here, what would be your message then?
I'll go last.
Yeah, I would say that, you are at the cusp of like a new industry. It's a new opportunity, I think, for everybody who's in it. So really leverage that, because, most sectors in our country, in India, are now so overwhelmingly like entrenched with like entrenched players. entrenched monopolies. So you really have like a clean slate to some degree, and I think you should really leverage that.
You can brief about the career opportunities they can explore, different career opportunities they can explore.
So please read. That's the best thing to do. And so what I also do is like the online forums I'm a part of. I not contribute much, but I consume a lot. So that's a very good thing. And yeah, so especially for non-technical women, um, you it's like tech isn't intimidating at all, trust me, it's not. It sounds intimidating, the idea of it is intimidating, but it's not. And there are so many ways you can make a career out of it, and especially like marketing, partnerships, anything whatsoever.
Yeah, like I think people often think that you have to be technical to get into crypto. I actually think we have a lot of engineers. We actually need much more brilliant marketers and people who can really convey the message to the external world. I think we have terrible marketers in crypto. Like, oh God, it just, you read some of the websites and you're like, who thought of this? Definitely an engineer. But I think, the other thing, like you were saying earlier, people used to say like, oh, like woman in tech, that's so cool that you're a woman in tech. And I had the same reaction. I'm like, I'm not a woman in tech. I'm just in tech. And kind of just making women realize that this is just another industry and not like some crazy, offshoot thing. And I do think that as more women enter the space, like the problem will get easier to solve, because what I've noticed with female is female like to be around other female, and men like to be around other men. So when a woman is alone in an industry, it can make it harder. But as more women enter the space, it'll make it more alluring for her to come in, because she feels more comfortable having female friends in the industry. So hopefully, as more women enter the space, we can all kind of be a force for each other.
And people often change their interest from marketing to tech, tech to marketing. So it isn't tech at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Tanvi would like to ask? Okay. Shall we open up a few questions for the community, for the audience? Anyone wants to ask anything? Anyone has a question? You can take this. It's on.
Yeah. So one of the question is like, say you mentioning like blockchain, women should enter it. What I would also see is that how blockchain is helping women to solve the harassment problem in other areas. If some light can be thrown in this. Thank you.
What do you mean by how blockchain is helping that?
Say some of the privacy issues that is available in internet, this decentralization and blockchain technology is solving in a very good fashion. Like it is trying to improve the privacy of the women on internet space, like using the decentralized technology instead of publishing their data. It helps them to own their data. So I just want to get your thoughts also on it.
I guess he means women shy to express their feelings. So how can blockchain help in that privacy?
Yeah, I haven't thought about much this, to be honest. I don't really have much here.
I think I agree with that, and that's why I said earlier that we should think about like writing more on these lines, how socially blockchain can make an impact for women. So yeah, privacy is a big thing. Equalizing gender norms in some areas is a big thing. Yeah, I think it's a unexplored area that we should.
Even though we are sharing something on social media, it's our own identity and it will be revealed. So I guess he's having his own blockchain project on that part that solves the issue. So probably he wanted to ask from your suggestion for that, isn't it? Okay. Any other question? Please.
Thank you for the panel. It was absolutely lovely. I have one question, yes. It's so like as a woman myself, it's always that, oh, you're a woman in blockchain. How do you feel? Like that's just such a common thing. They don't ask me about my degree or how old am I or, you know, about my origin, nothing. But, oh, you know, that's like the first comment. Um, Also, I do know that crypto blockchain is not, you know, it's not banned for us women, you know, but still we get that comment. And don't you think that it's up to us women to get out there and, you know, be more entrepreneurial or, you know, go out there and be like, you know, yes, like we don't need that comment because we are equally competent or we are equally passionate to be there. So do you think that you know like more women should get out there and create an awareness rather than just getting that question? Oh, it's so lovely to see you into blockchain.
So I know like Preethi has a take on it, and I think when I think as a policymaker, right, a lot of these things seem like tokens, like not tokens in the crypto sense, like it seems like tokenism, like oh, a woman on the board, oh, a woman in the space, but actually it has created more visibility for women, right? Like, I mean, it's not, of course, it's not solving the root issue of like male attitudes towards women, but just having more women in the room, like, I think that is important. I think that is changing things. Like, I don't think we would have had a Me Too like 5 years ago, right? Because we do feel like we are getting attention, like we are given space because people are consciously making some space. Like, and I know that I think the next level of that is like growing up from that as well and just seeing everybody as equal.
Awesome.
Anyone, is there anyone else? Men in a room?